Welcome to Dream by Design with Melissa Banks, where women share their dreams, struggles and successes, how they were able to persevere despite the fear and create the life they want and deserve. If you're looking for inspiration to move you past where you normally would stop, then this is the show for you. Here's your host, Melissa Banks.
Welcome to Dream by Design with Melissa Banks. I'm so excited you could be with us today. I'm your host, Melissa Banks. And today we are beyond excited to kick off our Women Who Write series, featuring some amazing women that will be sharing their journey and how they were able to keep going despite the circumstances. And our first guest in this amazing series is author Tina Siemens. Thank you so much, Tina, for joining us today.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you so much for having me and giving me the opportunity to be with you. It's truly a joy.
You know, Tina, when we were talking and we decided on the Women Who Write series, you were the first author that came to mind. Of course, I know a lot of women who have written books, but your journey just came to mind, and I just felt like your story was so powerful that so many of our listeners would be inspired and pushed and encouraged just by your story. So I'm excited to talk to you today.
Oh,
I just want to begin, Tina.
Privilege.
Thank you. I do want to begin, this is your first book. It's a powerful book. Did you dream about being a published author at some time, or just how does it feel to be where you are right now with your book?
It kind of evolved. It started off by me just wanting to have a written account for my children and my grandchildren and future generations, because for me, it took me 20 plus years to gather information and to gather the different puzzle pieces. And when it finally came to where I could put the last corner, so to say, on that puzzle, to where I had a timeline of my ancestors and the journey that they have traveled, it was such a pivotal moment in my life that I thought, I've got to write this down. And so that's where the thought or the dream was born, to have a written account. But as I was starting to write, pages that I started to write down my thoughts for years and years, but never dreamt of publishing it. And when that was introduced to me, I thought, that is just wonderful. So that was a 4-year journey from the time I decided, okay, I'm going to write, till it was the finished project. So it has truly been a journey that just evolved into what it is today.
Wow, written account for future generations. That's pretty powerful. I heard you say that everyone has a story. So this is your family's story, and it's very personal. It's very passionate. How do you get, and anyone who's listening, how can you get from really wanting to, having a story, really wanting to share that story, but then having the courage to share it publicly as you have in your book, Seminole?
Well, I always say a gift is not a gift until you give it away. And a double joy, a shared joy is double joy, because I enjoyed the journey. I enjoyed getting it on paper and then seeing the printed book form. But to me, it's been so amazing to know that our story is not, I'm not one of a kind. Many people before me and in today's world, they are going through the same trials. And for me to be able to say, this is how my family dealt with it, this is how the family, because my storybook is not just one storyline, but also the history of West Texas with the Indians and with the 10th Cavalry. But all of us have that story in us. And for us to be able to document that and say, this is how we dealt with it, this is what worked for us, is my prayer that it will be a tool for somebody else to remember after they read the book. That's how they dealt with it. Maybe I can try the same thing, and it will work for them, because kind of a one-size-fits-all, if we just persevere and not give up, then the journey might be a little different, but the outcome is the same way, because you can be a light and be an encouragement to somebody else by not keeping your story, your experiences to yourself, but to share them with others.
I absolutely agree, Tina. I believe that the best way to achieve your dreams and successes is by sharing and helping someone else achieve theirs. And I think by telling your story and some of the things that you were able to persevere through helps someone else in dealing with their own journey. I want to just say to our audience, those of you who just joined us, you're listening to Dream by Design with Melissa Banks. And today our guest is author Tina Siemens, and we're talking about her journey to writing her first book, Seminole, Some People Never Give Up. So, Tina, as you were writing this story, your family story, and you were experiencing, I would assume, some emotions as you were going through it, and you were changing emotions as you wrote different parts of the book. How has it helped you in your journey and your life ups and downs, and how has it prepared you for your own journey that you're experiencing now?
Well, when I read different accounts of my ancestors' journey from moving from one country to another, and always looking for the freedom that they wanted to pursue, of having their own lifestyle, of just never giving up by pursuing another dream, and if one didn't work, then try something else. That has given me so many life lessons of just for instance, my grandparents being youngly married, getting on a train and driving across the U.S. from Canada to Old Mexico, Chihuahua, Mexico, having had just a few delegates make the trip before them, and then come back and report to them and say, this is going to be there's a lot of land, there's a lot of farming to be done. We'll be able to set up our own communities and do what we are meant to do, is to farm and to have our families. And so that journey for them to, by faith, believe that what was at the end of that train ride was. And so sometimes whatever we want as a human being, we have a dream, but if we don't take a step to get on that train and make that trip, we may never reach that full potential. And so we've got to have, and I think that was part of my biggest takeaway, was they did it by faith, and they succeeded by doing what they thought could be impossible.
One of the things you said that I really want to come back to just for a moment, and you said they had to believe that at the end of that journey, it was going to be what they were looking for. That, to me, is so powerful for every single one of us, because if you can't believe that it's going to be what you're looking for, you cannot move toward it. You cannot go forward. And that was so powerful to hear you say that. And then you talked about action, taking that step. See, we can sit down and we can want this dream, but they didn't just sit there. What did they do? They moved, they took some steps, and they did some action. So even for you to share this story, it would have been great. You said you wanted a written account for for future generations. You could have wrote this stuff down and just held it close to your heart and passed it along to your children. But you took that step of sharing that story with the rest of us. That is so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Now, the story is definitely about faith. It's about hope, and it's about perseverance, not giving up. How do you continue in faith when things are just not working out? It's just not looking like you wanted it to look, and it doesn't seem, just by looking at it, that you're going to be able to get to where you want to be.
Well, it's just like Thomas Edison when he made the light bulb. How many times will he have had a failed experience that did not result in his light to come on? But in him pursuing it over and over again, it's not that the people nowadays do not know about the failures. They know about the one light bulb that came on and that was multiplied over and over again. So it's not concentrating on our failures, but rather celebrating the joyful moment when, through your experiences of failure, you succeed and you've made the mark. And sometimes that mark might be just a baby step towards your bigger goal, but it is an achievement toward that. And I can't remember his name now that spoke a while back, and I'm not very good at remembering names, but he said so many people, they have a plan that they can fall back on, and he would rather not have a plan to fall back on, but wanted to rather fall forward. Then that made him a few steps closer to his goal. That is what we need to do, is always fall forward with our dreams to make it a few steps closer to our full potential dream.
Oh, wow, Tina, that was so good and so huge. Thank you for that. One of the things you said was celebrate the successes, celebrate the things that went well instead of focusing on those things that didn't. That's really big. Another thing I took away from what you just said is baby steps. You know, celebrate even the small stuff. I was doing an interview recently, and somebody asked me, what do I celebrate? I said, I celebrate everything. I celebrate having a good show. I celebrate the end of an event. I don't wait till the big goal in order to celebrate, and I think that's what encourages you to keep going. So thank you for that. Okay, I'd love to hear you talk about the significance of the hats on the cover of your book, Seminole, and I wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to share that with our audience here at Dream by Design. What is the significance of the cover of your book, Seminole?
Well, first of all, the word Seminole means set apart. And Seminole is a small town in West Texas, as it is in Florida, as well as in Oklahoma. And it is from the Cimarron Indians that were is where that word comes from, and meaning set apart. And so the word Seminole is the town that I live in, West Texas, that I immigrated to in 1977, which became that international story, as you'll read in the book. But so as I was praying for the cover, the thought came to me, or I was given the inspiration of the different hats, because all of us wear a different hat in life. And so the different hats on my cover are representing the different storylines in the cover. So the Indian headdress in the middle is for all the indigent people, past and present. And Quanah Parker is from the Comanche tribe, and he's a huge part of our West Texas story. And so that was for all the indigent people. And then to the right, looking at my cover, is the Western cowboy straw hat. And that is something that all the Mennonite men and boys will often be seen wearing. And then right beneath that is the straw hat that the women wear, the ribbon. And I grew up wearing that. And so that's a very symbol of the Mennonite culture. And then next to that is the 10th Cavalry hat, who the 10th Cavalry hired the black Seminoles from the state of Florida for their scouting abilities. So they came to what is now Seminole, Texas, and they found 50 shallow water wells at the time when their horses and they were almost parched because they had run out of water. So the 10th Cavalry came out and scouted out this area, and it was then named Seminole for the Cimarron Indians that came with the 10th Cavalry. And then last but not least is the fedora, and that I put on for all the legal help, because this is truly an immigration story as well. And that was for all the legal help from our local mayor and to our congressmen, and then congressmen to the president of the United, which was at the time President Jimmy Carter, who signed a special bill that allowed my family and 500 plus others the opportunity to become American citizens. So that is kind of an overview of the different hats, but each one of us wears a different hat in life. And it does not have to be a literal hat, but we're called to lead in the position that we are put in. And so if we wear that hat with pride, then we will be able to make a difference in somebody else's hat by maybe just giving them a little piece of the shadow on a hard day or something. So hats, to me, I love hats, and that they tell a story in itself.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And something you did say, we all wear different hats. Even in our businesses, in our dreams, some people think you have to have one dream and that's the only hat that you can wear is that dream. But what you've shown us, even just by this, is it takes so many different hats. So you can have 5 different dreams. You can have 10 different dreams and wear different hats. And I really appreciate that. I wanted to ask you about something else that you said was to start where you are, using what you have. How important is it to just start?
We'll never know what could be down the road. And so it is, making a start is totally doing it almost like a blindfold on. But it is, without faith, you can't make a start. You have to believe in yourself first in order to think that or experience what could be. And without making that start, you will never have an end. And so the start of the race is as the most important. It's not so much the finish line, but if you never dare to start, you won't achieve the finish line. So the start is a massive part of every human being's everyday life.
I absolutely agree with that. Now, Tina, do you think that as being a female author that you faced any particular challenges when you were writing your book that other authors would not feel? And if so, how were you able to push past those challenges?
Well, I think in my culture especially, women, if you'll read the story, you'll find out that women were meant to be at home. They're born to be homemakers, to have the family. They weren't in years past, generations past. They were not ever out. So I did break a lot of molds by stepping out and becoming an author. And I think that has given. I have 2 young authors that have contacted me just from my small town here that have been inspired to make their dream come true as an author. One has a little published. It's a young teenage daughter, a girl that has her little book published, and another one that's working on one. So I have absolutely think of being a women's author and being a bridge builder in the sense of breaking things that traditions that were not so looked upon favorably by generations past. But so I definitely feel very honored to be able to forge a new pathway for women to express their own feelings, because we as women, we often have a very deep insight, and if we can be coached and take the opportunity to put that on paper so that others can learn from it is a wonderful step forward.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. And Tina, before we wrap up, I wanted to know, what advice would you give to our listeners who may be considering writing a book or maybe have an amazing story to tell but haven't been able to push that goal yet in order to share that story? What advice would you give them?
Start by getting their thought on paper. And if so many people, I think the daunting task of getting to it published, getting it to somebody, hire somebody that has experience you might be blessed in being able to hire somebody else that helps you get your story. If it's, find ways of doing it. There's so many wonderful programs online that are free nowadays that you can just start journaling. And then before you'll know, you'll have several chapters, and find an outline and just start. I think making that first step of a bigger goal is the key.
Well, thank you so much, Tina. You have just inspired us so much, and I'm just so thrilled to have had this opportunity to speak with you. I wanted you to let our audience know how to stay connected with you.
Well, they can reach me at seminolthebook@gmail.com, as well as I am on Facebook, Seminole the Book, also on Twitter and Instagram. Write me, contact me, and I'll be honored to speak to you or to fill you in and having a word of encouragement. Just reach out to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you again for being here today, Tina. And thank you to our audience for tuning in to today's edition of Dream by Design. I'm your host, Melissa Banks, saying all your dreams are possible. Believe in yourself, work hard, and don't quit. Until next time, thank you for choosing Dream by Design with Melissa Banks. Enjoy your day.